Okay, let's move on to 4 if you're good with that
Sure.
on communicating with tact and empathy.
Yeah, my dad always defined tact as the language of strength. And I always love that because sometimes it just takes a lot of strength, right, to speak tactfully and diplomatically to someone who really, kind of you don't want to and so forth. But, tact is really uh, communicating an idea to someone that they normally would not be agreeable to, and doing it in such a way that not only are they not defensive toward you and resistant to your idea, but they're actually open to you and more accepting of your idea. That's tact. Now, empathy, which is its cousin, right? Empathy is by definition the identification with or vicarious experiencing of another person's feelings, right? But here's the thing about that. We don't understand their feelings necessarily because, again, going back to belief systems, we're not them. So when we said earlier, we don't know what's in their head, well, we don't know what's in their heart either. But here's the good thing about this. Empathy does not necessarily mean you understand exactly how they feel, because you might not. It means you understand they're feeling something and that this something is distressful to them and that you were there to help them work through it. And you communicate this, sure, with what you say and how you say it. That's part of it. But, Brad, it's really you communicate it just by the way you show up and just by the energy you put out there and the genuine caring you have for that person.
So much of this, Bob, applies to how great advisors interact with their clients. I think the empathy piece. Well, I'm want to ask you. So, how are there questions? Are there certain frameworks? Like, if I was an advisor, back to that first appointment, somebody comes in, they have $1 million, they're 65 years old, husband, wife, and they're overwhelmed. Everything that's going on in the market currently, that'll create that pretty quickly. So, having empathy, but I'm curious, how would you go about, hey, there's a belief system there, and you're seeing that belief system has them maybe riding a roller coaster of ups and downs in the market that's creating a lot of stress. How would you start to transition to communicate, hey, would you be open to a different view? Are there certain phrases, words you use to kind of start to tiptoe into that where you might want to communicate a different way of thinking and then being open to that?
Yeah, well, one of them is just simply understanding that they may have a lot of feelings about what they don't know, and they can be a high net worth client or prospective client, but that doesn't mean they understand money and investments. And they may know they don't understand money and investments. It's not a strength of theirs. And so, sometimes it's using an I message and saying, it just might be me. I'm getting the feeling that you have some real thoughts and concerns, which, by the way, makes perfect sense. This is very important to you, and I would expect that you have a lot of, concerns. What I would love you to do is to feel comfortable asking me whatever you feel is important, because this is what I do. So while, this is something I do every day. So I just want to let you know that my goal is to help you invest in a way that's both comfortable for you and a way that's going to attain for you the results that you want. And when you do that, you have created sort of the environment where they feel safer sharing with you those concerns that they may not have shared with you before. You haven't blamed them. You haven't said, this is what you're doing wrong and this is what I wrote, right? But instead, you're letting them know that you are basically there to answer those questions. You are letting them know that this is something that you do all the time so that you do understand the situation and that they are more than welcome to ask you those questions and discuss those concerns in a very non-judgmental manner.
That's awesome. One of the tools you just used there that we coach on a lot is just kind of asking permission, right? Instead of telling, you already said it multiple times, ask questions. And nobody wants to be told you're doing this a different way than you should. But
Right.
I'm curious. So if you open with that comment that you just did, could you extend on to that? Hey, if at any time during this conversation, I see that there might be an opportunity or maybe a different strategy you haven't been aware of or utilized in the past, would you be open to me sharing that with you? Is that fair? Kind of tiptoeing into there might be a different way, or do I have permission to share that with you along the way? Have you utilized different tools like that?
Brad, I think that's just such an important part of any type of counseling. When you think about it, what is, sales is a matter of giving another person a number of things. You're giving them time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and immense value. Now, the counsel that you're giving them does need to be with their buy-in. And that's why, as you mentioned, asking for permission to share an idea. And sometimes I even use, because I'm a big believer in giving the out or back door so people feel autonomous, they have a choice. And that is sharing an idea you may or may not be interested in pursuing. And when you do that, it's, oh yeah, well, it's my choice, right? And this advisor respects that. Yeah.
You're relieving pressure out of the conversation. There is no wrong way to go. One of my friends, Chris Smith, he says, act as if you've got nowhere to get. And you're acting as if you've got nowhere to get. It's like, we could use it or maybe not. But
great idea by
we'll
Chris.
put it out there and talk through that.